listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls, start saving thousands in interest and fees, and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits to full-length novels and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030. You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Welcome to Opinion Nation.
And we stand today on the edge of a new frontier.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
What makes us Americans is our shared commitment to an ideal that all of us are created equal.
I, too, am American.
Now here's your host, Bryce Robbins.
Hello everybody and welcome to another installment of Opinion Nation. This will be airing this Saturday for you to all enjoy, and today, well, we've had guests from the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, the Republican Party, Democratic Party, Independent Party. Today we have another guest coming to you from the Constitutional Party, and his name is Darrell Castle. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring you out and basically, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, Bryce, thank you for having me. About myself, well, how far back do you want me to go? I'm a lawyer by profession. I have been for 37 years now. I've been married to the same woman for 38 years. I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps as an officer, and I've been involved in the Constitution Party since its actual founding in 1992. So I was one of the founders, and that has been, 24 years now, I guess.
So what was your affiliation, if you don't mind me asking, before you were a member of the Constitution Party?
I had no affiliation.
No affiliation. All right, so you are running for president this year, and as every third-party candidate should be asked, what is your inspiration for running when the system is very heavily saying that it cannot be done unless you're in the two major parties?
Well, the fact that the system says that is one of the reasons for doing it. But personally, I think that the Constitution is in serious danger, and the Constitution represents the rule of law. The rule of law is embodied in it, and the rule of law is in great danger, and that spells trouble for the country.
Well, let me ask you, because you bring up that the Constitution's in danger. Who or what would you say is the greatest threat to the Constitution?
That question is impossible to answer, but I will just tell you that the founders envisioned a limited form of government, and we have strayed as a people far, far from that. You know, I'm not going to point to one person and say that person is the greatest threat to the Constitution. The entire system is a threat to the Constitution unless it's brought back under control.
Well, what would you say, I guess, then, is the biggest area in which we have strayed from the original intent of the Constitution? What is the biggest perversion of the intent of the Founding Fathers?
Well, that would be embodied in the first line of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, which says all legislative authority herein granted is vested in the Congress of the United States. So Congress has all legislative authority, and as it's pretty obvious to see, that is violated every single day by the president and by every alphabet agency out there.
All right, so now my curiosity then would arise in this instance is why, I guess, hasn't courts taken up the issue of agencies, or I'm assuming you're referring to executive orders. Is that correct?
Well, that is one way that provision is violated. Yes. Okay,
so then, if it is unconstitutional, why are courts, I guess, not taking it up, or why is nobody bringing it to the courts? Why are congressmen or senators not taking it up as why have we accepted it since FDR, I guess?
Well, power corrupts. It corrupts the minds and the morals. Mm-hmm. And power has a tendency to burst its chains. It's very hard to control. No one wants to limit it. Everybody wants to expand it so that they can use it to do what they want to do. One session of Congress doesn't want to limit the power because they can use it in the next one, so it expands every single time. That is a natural tendency of the thing. But why no one has brought suit, or if anyone has, I'm not aware of it. I don't know. You'd have to ask them.
All right. So I want to jump to one of your most outspoken areas that you talk about, and that's leaving the United Nations. And I believe, did you say you wanted to leave NATO as well?
Well, I said that NATO has outlived its usefulness and that we should consider leaving it. Yes.
Okay, so then my question for that would be, do you expect any negative ramifications from leaving the UN or NATO? Basically, if we leave NATO, do you think, or do you worry about Russia going crazy in Eastern Europe? And if so, I mean, because that does seem to be a big threat, especially now, what would you do?
No, I don't worry about that at all, because if Russia's gone crazy in Eastern Europe, it's probably because of NATO. But keep one thing in mind: there are 28 nations in NATO. The United States is only one of those. Canada being the only other one in North America, and the other 27 of these countries really could have virtually minuscule military capability compared to the United States. You know, this is part of the deal the United States has with the other NATO countries. We'll supply your defensive efforts, and you can use your own GDP to fund your social welfare state, and so forth. So there's not much there, is what I'm trying to tell you. But NATO's incursions into Eastern Europe, in clear violation of the agreement between Reagan and Gorbachev that we wouldn't do that, has caused some problems. So to answer your question, no, that wouldn't concern me.
But let's even go to the United Nations, because I think that's the primary one you talk about. If the United States were to leave the United Nations, we would leave our seat at the Security Council, which votes on various military action. And if we lost our vote, China and Russia, it seems as though they would have the biggest hand there. So would that not cause or stir up any problems?
China and Russia, what would they do without us? I might point out that the United Nations was an organization formed supposedly to keep us out of wars like World War II. We could all sit down at the table and reason together. But since it was formed post-World War II, we've been almost constantly at war. And we haven't won many of them. So,
Right, but don't you think in the South China Sea area,
being a free and independent nation would seem to be in our best interest?
But Mr. Castle, so if we go to the South China Sea where China's expanding, where we go to Russia and Ukraine where Russia is seeming as though it wants to resort back to its days of the Soviet Union, do you see problems if the United States gives off an image, and I know you say it's not isolationist, and I'm not calling it that, but may give off the image of that? Do you see any problems that can arise internationally? Do you think China can encroach more land in Asia, or same thing with Russia? Don't you see this as possibility, as the United States looking weak internationally?
How is NATO or the United Nations keeping down Chinese expansion in the south side of the China Sea?
Well, because we have votes on the Security Council and the G8 and whatnot. We've used the G8 to kick out Russia, to make the G7.
Did you not just say that China's expanding in the South China Sea? What I'm asking is, how is the United Nations preventing that? Besides, it's the decision to sanction Russia is primarily one of the United States and Europe.
Right, but my I guess overall question is, don't you think that the UN gives a forum for international treaty making, I guess? Don't you think that would be the grounds where the United States could lead the way to stop at least the expansion of the South China Sea by China? Don't you think that the United Nations sets up a means of communication?
I think it's designed to do that, but I don't think it does it. No, I don't think it does anything to help.
Okay. And what about, I guess, various treaties? I mean, if we look at, for example, the Kyoto Protocol that was signed in 1997, the United States backed out of it. So, be it that we don't have to adhere, as shown by us, to many UN treaties, we haven't even agreed to the law of the sea yet. Can we still be in the United Nations and just not agree to treaties? I mean, I'm just curious.
Well, sure, we can do whatever we want to do, but what I'm proposing is that we be a free and independent nation again. The United Nations is not is not in keeping with the American way of life. But in reference to those treaties that you mentioned, the Law of the Sea Treaty, the Kyoto Protocol, the Senate's never ratified those treaties, but president after president still adheres to them, just as if they were ratified.
Okay. All right. So I'm not sure about the Kyoto Protocol one, but perhaps for the law of the sea, I would have to look into that. But let's talk about now. We might get back to that issue if we have time, but I want to make sure we get to everything here. So let's talk about the Federal Reserve. So one thing you want to do is get rid of the Federal Reserve. You want to end the system. It's been in place since Woodrow Wilson under the Federal Reserve Act, and well, it was created in secret. That much I know. I've actually used to be interested in the idea of ending the Federal Reserve. Now I really don't know how I feel. Perhaps moderate auditing might be suitable. But ending it, I am not sure about. And from what it sounds like on your website, you would like to go back to a gold standard. And correct me if I'm wrong on that. And you would allow the U.S. Treasury would accept various currencies. You wouldn't have to use the dollar, if that's correct.
Yes, I favor competing currencies, yes.
Okay, so first let's talk about the gold standard, then we'll talk about competing currencies, and then overall the Federal Reserve. So you want to go back to a gold standard. So if you could, this is a very Ron Paul-like stance, I guess, and there have been various, or numerous, I should say, economists that say the gold standard would be a death wish for our economy. So if you could give me an argument, and the listeners an argument for why we should go back to the gold standard, that would be great.
So the dollar can be backed by something besides the promises of politicians, and so that we would be limited and not enabled to incur $20 trillion in debt on behalf of the American people.
But, I mean, from my understanding of the debt, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understand is that we are actually making more money on the debt than we are losing. In fact, we sell bonds to other countries, and we are making moderate amounts of money on it. So, from what I've understood, is that the debt is more of a talking point than a problem that economists are worried about.
What do you think happens when you sell bonds to other countries?
Well, they're going to pay it back, or that you buy bonds from other countries and you pay back. I mean,
sell bonds to other countries, you're selling debt.
Right. But from my understanding is that the United States is making money on its debt, making money on the purchasing and selling of bonds. So aside from the issue of debt, because I think that ends up being more of a talking point that people like Donald Trump use to say, oh, we're in debt, we can't do things, because there are many economists that would argue that the debt is just not necessarily the biggest issue right now.
You would argue the opposite.
Well, I guess that's up in the air, because it seems as though we're making money on debt, and it allows us to grow and stimulate our economy as well as the world economy. So my question is then, what is the purpose of backing our dollar with something physical? Doesn't that limit the ability of our economy to grow?
No, it limits the ability of our government to engage in mischief all around the world like it's been doing for the last, say, 50 years, and it limits the ability of the government to incur massive amounts of debt, which you don't believe is a problem, but I do believe is a problem, in the name of the American people.
Okay, so, I mean, there seems to be a big divide in this country, so you know, the people who supported Ron Paul's idea and got behind, a big amount of conservatives got behind the gold standard idea, saying that it would get to economic stability and whatnot. But it seems as though with the gold standard, we would see more price instability and less economic stability overall. How would you handle, I guess, changes in the economy so rapidly while also taking out government agencies to help ease the pain, I guess, so to speak?
Are you saying, I'm not sure I even understand your question. You put some assumptions in there, and then you
So I will get to the point here. With the gold standard, we will see price instability and economic instability overall for various goods and services. How would you deal with this economic and price instability of goods and services if we're also simultaneously getting rid of agencies that help, I guess, employ people, regulate prices, regulate goods, regulate services? If we're getting rid of all those and going right to the gold standard, don't you see a giant area where we could have an economic downfall?
Well, economic downfall is coming one way or another, in my view. But I think that when we emerge on the other side of the economic downfall, we could be finally with something stable. If you remember from your history, we had a gold standard until 1971. August of 1971, President Nixon took us off the gold standard because he was trying to incur massive amounts of debt to pay off the debts from the Vietnam War and also Johnson's war on poverty. And he found he couldn't do them both at the same time by expanding credit when we had a gold standard. So he essentially defaulted on the debt by going off the gold standard. And the country managed to exist somehow. For all those years, it fought two world wars. But now, all of a sudden, it would just be chaos to have anything, have our currency backed by anything of value.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure how I answer you other than that.
All right, and what do you think the transition back to the gold standard would be like for the economy?
If we enacted our economic system that I propose, you would find that this would be the most dynamic and growing, bustling economy in world history.
Okay. So, my last question, I guess, on the gold standard will be that the value of gold fluctuates a lot. And it would not, like I said before, provide for price stability. So how would you remedy the instability of the fluctuation in the price of gold?
Well, the reason the price of gold fluctuates is because of government-induced inflation. The price of gold going up is a signal that the free market believes that inflation is coming. And so gold would stabilize all that. And there's only so much of it, so it is very stable.
Okay. All right. I want to move on then now to various forms of currency that you want to use. If you could explain that idea to people, because I think that that's a very foreign idea to many of the listeners.
Sure. There's. I am not the first person, as you point out. Many people say you've said before. Well, many people say that competing currencies would be a good thing, so that it would be much more difficult for the government to devalue or debase our currency. Why should we be restricted to using only one? My position would be to make the dollar stable and valuable so that people wouldn't want to use a British pound to buy something in America. But if a person wanted to, why shouldn't he be able to?
But now you talk about using Bitcoin, which is something that many people can use in various locations. They accept Bitcoin, but we saw that Bitcoin had very big problems with stability and safety, I would say, actually. They got hacked and their prices went up and down, and people were stealing Bitcoins and selling Bitcoins on the dark web. So don't you think that the dollar is a far more stable form of currency, and that allowing people to use other forms of currency would only hurt the economy and their bank accounts?
Well, I think dollar is a more stable form of currency than Bitcoin for sure. But as you pointed out, people steal Bitcoin. They steal dollars too, I might remind you. Every day people steal dollars. But if someone wants to, that's what the market is. It gives you what you deserve, not what you want.
Okay.
So why shouldn't people be able to use it if they want to?
It's interesting. I mean, I think just a uniform currency probably make the system easier, that everybody accepts a certain form.
Well, I mean, that's a matter of opinion, but
absolutely.
It's all about.
It's just what I imagine. So let's just talk about the Federal Reserve in its entirety. So it sets interest rates and whatnot that, I mean, many would argue have allowed us to get out of economic recession. But on the contrary, people could argue that they're playing with interest rates, and that's pretty dangerous. So, many economists would be hesitant to take your stance and back you in getting rid of the Federal Reserve in its entirety. But please tell me your justification for wanting to get rid of the Federal Reserve.
Well, the Federal Reserve, if you look at its own website, was created for two purposes. In 1913, it was fraudulently created from the beginning, as you've pointed out. But the two purposes listed was to protect the value of the dollar, which has lost 98% of its value since then, and to provide full employment. As you probably know, full employment doesn't necessarily mean every person in America working, but I would argue that it's done a poor job in each one of those. But it's done so many other things. It's, as you said, the federal government, the market does not set interest rates in any degree. They're set by the Federal Reserve. And for about 8 years or so now, the interest rates have been set basically at zero, which has destroyed savers and many investors, and it's kept people that normally would retire and have a comfortable life from doing so. You know, there was a time when a person could work his entire life like I have and save his money and or perhaps buy some asset like a house or something, and when he reaches retirement age, he sells those assets and gets maybe $1 million, let's say, and so he can enjoy $50,000 a year for the rest of his life, along with Social Security if it still exists, and have a pretty comfortable life. And the asset is still there for him to pass it on to his children. But thanks to the Federal Reserve, that doesn't exist anymore because the interest rates have been zero for so long. It's impossible to invest with any degree of safety. So those are all things that the Federal Reserve has done, and there are many other reasons. I just don't want to see the idea of the United States monetary system in the hands of a bunch of central bankers forever.
No, I mean, I think many people would agree with you on that, and I think that I, for one, believe that the Federal Reserve should be looked at least, audited perhaps. I know that Ron Paul wrote an interesting book on that. I'm not sure if I agree necessarily with getting rid of it completely, but you do give an interesting argument for it. Definitely, I wonder what the leading economist theory would be on that, on getting rid of a central bank.
Well, I can tell you, for the last 70 years, it's been Keynesian theory, which is doing what it's done. So, very serious. I mean, the late economist would be in favor of leaving.
In respect to Keynesian economics, though, I mean, trickle-down economics seem to not have worked either. What type of economic theory, I guess, do you base your principles off of?
You agree with Mrs. Clinton. She says trickle-down didn't work, but if you go back to the Reagan administration, which is about the only time it's been tried, to a certain degree, Bill Clinton tried a little bit of it. I would argue that it did work in a spectacular fashion, but I believe in the free market. I think free market should set interest rates, and we should have a free market system.
Okay. All right. So now let me ask you, because, and it's a little straying, I guess, from your platform, but I will get back to that. You talked about, you briefly mentioned the word Social Security, so I really have to ask, if you are in support of all these free market principles and limited government, would you be in favor of getting rid of Social Security?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. That would be tantamount to stealing, because people like me who have worked their working lives and have been forced at gunpoint to pay money into this system deserve to have that money back. So I'm not going to rob these people by telling them that I'm not going to give it back. But at some point, in order to maintain the solvency of the system, you're going to have a cutoff point and say people younger than this are going to have to provide for their own retirement. It's going to be privatized. You know, so you could sum it up by saying that I believe in fulfilling the promises that have been made to people, and the people who have paid into it should get what they paid and what they have coming. But there will be a time in the future when some age will have to be chosen. Earlier than that, the system will have to be privatized, or else it's going to reach insolvency.
I mean, I've heard many conflicting views, but we are here to talk about what you believe in, so fair enough. Now let's talk about your your stance on abortion. You have the pro-life stance on your website, and I'm just wondering because the Supreme Court has made its rulings and said that this is within the realm of the Constitution, be that that's their job. So my question is, if it is now the law of the land under the Supreme Court's ruling, why do you differ? And if so, would you also differ on the, I guess, ruling on gay marriage, Citizens United, perhaps?
Well, tell me what's your question?
Well, my question is, if you don't agree with the Supreme Court's ruling, as evident by your platform, do you disagree with other Supreme Court rulings? And if so, what would you do about them?
Well, sure, I disagree with a lot of Supreme Court rulings. The Supreme Court, believe it or not, can be wrong.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, gay marriage, yes, I disagree with them. I'm a Christian. I don't believe in gay marriage. In fact, I don't believe it even exists because God defines what marriage is, and He's made that quite clear. But at the same time, I don't believe it's any of government's business to tell people who they should sleep with or what relationships they should be in and so forth. So it's irrelevant to government, or it should be. In my world, it would be. You know, as a Christian, I can, if someone came to me and I were president of the United States, two men or two women, and they said, "Look, we're married. Here's a Catholic priest, a Protestant minister, and a civil magistrate who will testify to the fact that we're married," I would say, "Well, you know, that's fine, but in my mind, you're not married. However, as president, it's irrelevant to me. I don't care what you are, because it's none of the government's business."
Well, I mean, I guess my question is more or less rooted in the idea. I've heard John Kasich say it. He said, well, the Supreme Court has made their ruling and said that he will not infringe on that. Similar to how Dwight Eisenhower said that the Supreme Court made its ruling on desegregating schools and he would not, infringe on their ruling. So my curiosity, I guess, is coming from, why do you think you should infringe on the court's ruling? Why do you disagree with the court's ruling?
Well, because it's wicked and evil and against the laws of God.
Well, then I guess to that I would ask, what about a separation of church and state? I mean, if the state is defining it one way, isn't it your responsibility as one of the leading figures of the state to uphold the state's position?
No, not if it's wicked and evil and against the laws of God. It's not.
Right.
Besides, I totally disagree with your point of view. You're making assumptions that are not correct. Number one, you think that just because the Supreme Court says something that it's the law of the land. I disagree.
Well, no, I don't necessarily agree with that, because
the Supreme Court's just as wrong on their abortion ruling as they were on their ruling with human slavery,
right,
and the Dred Scott decision. It's the same concept.
Well, I'm not sure necessarily I would compare the two there, but
I sure would. Would you like me to?
Please, actually, if you can.
When Dred Scott was a slave, escaped from his owners in Missouri.
Right, of course.
In the 1840s, and when he found some nice ACLU lawyer out there to bring suit against the state of Missouri and his owner, alleging that his captivity violated the Fifth Amendment. And that case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, "Oh, well, Mr. Scott, you actually would be right if you were a person, but you're not a person." Well, that's the same thing they tell unborn children. It would be wrong to kill you if you were a person, but we've decided you're not a person. That's the same argument Hitler used against the Jews. Exact same thing. These people are subhuman. They're not people, so we can send them to the gas chambers. We can murder them at will. The same thing that we do to our unborn children today.
But what I guess I'm not necessarily talking about Roe v. Wade. I'm talking about the fact that the current ruling is that if the fetus cannot exist outside the mother's womb, that is the point to which abortion is legal. Now, I am somebody who, I'm not really sure how I feel on it personally. I think that perhaps after the first trimester, that's not a good area to do that. But would you not necessarily... I mean, if you are a member of the Constitutional Party, it seems as though in these instances, your religious views are, I guess, separating out from your
Well, that's your opinion, and I'm quite happy that you think it might be wrong to kill children after they've reached 3 months of age. But
Well, I don't want to.
There are lots of ways to stop abortion other than doing what you seem to be suggesting.
Oh no, I think that you could stop abortion by filling public areas with birth control and making access to birth control easier. Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, I'm certainly in favor of birth control if people want to use it, but what I'm trying to do is stop people from killing their own children.
Right, but I mean, that would be one primary way to do that.
Do that in very lawful ways. You can do that by vetoing funding for abortion providers like Planned Parenthood and others. That's
right.
One way.
And I wanted to get to you, Planned Parenthood, because you do bring that up, and I'm actually glad that you did bring that up. What I wanted to talk about was that Planned Parenthood, 3% of their funding goes to abortion. The rest, the majority of it, goes to women's healthcare needs for lower income women. So would defunding Planned Parenthood, don't you think that would, be a pretty harmful thing to
No, I absolutely do not think it would be harmful, and it certainly wouldn't be harmful to the millions of children that they murder every single year. It would be quite helpful to them.
No, but what I'm asking is, if you defund Planned Parenthood, you will be disproportionately hurting women who seek health care there. Again, 3% of...
I don't share that opinion.
No, but what I'm saying is that 3% of their funding goes to performing abortions.
That's what you tell me, but I don't accept that. I don't believe it, number one.
Well, that's according to NPR.
People that will murder children will lie about it.
Okay, I mean, I guess if we're going to disagree on the facts there, then I guess it's not worth having the conversation. But what I will say is, according to NPR, the numbers state that 3% of 3% of funding of Planned Parenthood goes to abortion. The rest goes to women's health care.
According to who?
That's NPR.
Oh, well, goodness, that does it then.
Well, that's just where I got the...
Okay, I understand that. That's gospel then. So whatever amount of funding goes to Planned Parenthood in any degree would be vetoed by me and fought tooth and nail to the last drop of blood if I could do so.
All right. Well, we have actually blown past our first break, so if you don't mind, I would like to take a quick break, and then we will be right back. Sound good?
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. I'm Bryce Robbins. I'm here with presidential candidate, Constitutional Party candidate, Darrell Castle, and we are talking some good policies. So stay tuned to hear some more.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
Is debt beating you down? You need discipline. You need the Debt Ninja. If you've been caught in a financial trap and need to be set free, then you need the Debt Ninja. Want to stop those harassing collection calls? Start saving thousands in interest and fees and get out of debt fast? Then you need to call the Debt Ninja. The Debt Ninja will find the best companies across the country that will help you consolidate all your bills into one easy payment, reduce your payments by 30 to 50%, and get you out of debt fast. If you have unsecured debt of $10,000 or more, such as credit cards, loans, or medical bills, call the Debt Ninja for a free 15-minute consultation.
Call 800-826-1246. 800-826-1246. That's 800-826-1246. Call today.
The Debt Ninja.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it. There to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits to full-length novels and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your website, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
And we stand today on the edge of a new frontier.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is...
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. My name is Bryce Robbins. This is Opinion Nation, and today we are joined by Constitution Party presidential candidate Darrell, and we are talking some good policies. So something that I guess should be asked, because it seems as though you are a very religious man. Do you believe that this nation is, or ever was, a Christian nation?
It was, but it isn't anymore.
Do you think it should be?
Well, yes, of course. I believe Christianity is the correct way to think, but I also believe in the First Amendment, which says we each have a right to our own faith, to see that, or to practice no faith. That's how we see it.
So, what I am a little confused here with, then, I guess, is, because by that sentiment, you would say that some of the founding fathers were then wrong in their interpretation of how this country should be, because, John Adams explicitly says that this country was not intended to be a Christian nation. Same thing with Benjamin Franklin. So my question here now is, if the Supreme Court can be wrong, as we were arguing before, would you agree that some of the founding fathers were wrong? And if so, do you think then the Constitution can be wrong?
Well, in the context that you put things, it's not it's difficult to answer or impossible to answer. But I will say that when I say America should be a Christian nation, what I'm saying is I believe Christianity to be true. If I didn't, I wouldn't believe it. And if I believe it to be true, then I think other people should believe it to be true too. But that's their choice. I wish that we were all Christians. I mean, that would be a blessed time for me. But we're not. People have the right to be free, to choose their own faith or to choose no faith. Mm-hmm. And some of the founders certainly believe that. And that's fine. I mean, I have no problem with it. I don't care what faith you have or anyone else. But I think since I believe that Christianity is true, I think that is true, and people should believe it. But if they don't, I mean, that's their business.
So what I want to, I guess, elaborate on then is if we talked about the Supreme Court, those men can be wrong or those women can be wrong. Doesn't that imply then that the Constitution could be wrong? That people's interpretation of it could be wrong? The Founding Fathers could have been wrong.
Misinterpreted what the Constitution is. The Constitution is simply a contract. It's a contract between the 13 states existing at the time it was made.
Mm-hmm.
In that contract, those states ceded certain powers to this general government that they wanted to fund. They wanted to fund this government to help protect the liberty that they had just won in a war against England. So they formed this contract. That's what it is. I mean, there's nothing sacred about it. It's not a matter of it being right or wrong. It's a matter of what they agreed to.
Okay. And all right, that's I guess a very interesting take on it, and I'm sure that people will definitely be listening to that. Now, what I guess traction have you seen within your campaign for president? And I mean, are you a third-party candidate that foresees yourself in the White House? Do you see a path to victory?
Well, I could theoretically win the election. I mean, I have enough electoral votes out there that if enough people wanted to do the right thing and elect me president, they could. But quite often, people don't do the right thing. We've done many times in our country. Not only do we do the wrong thing, but we do the opposite of the right thing. So, you know, I leave it in the hands of God. He decides these things for me. My job is to be faithful and to do the very best that I can. So that's what I'm trying to do.
And if not you, then who? Who should be president if you are not president? Who do you trust the most other than yourself?
I don't trust any of them.
None? No other third-party candidates? Because you sound, from this interview, I would say that, you know, Gary Johnson may sound like you align with his position.
Gary Johnson is pro-abortion. He's pro-open borders. And he doesn't understand what religious freedom is.
All right.
Other than those, we have some similarities. Those are deal breakers.
All right, so let's actually talk about that for a little bit. Let's talk about borders. Do you agree with something that Donald Trump has made popular, either the ban on Muslims entering the nation or building a wall?
No.
No. So what would your border, I guess, look like? And do you think that can be inherently un-Christian to not allow people searching for help to get here? I mean...
Absolutely not. Do you think it... I don't think it would be un-Christian if my next-door neighbor decided he would kick my door in and come in and eat my food and share my child's education and things like that. It would not be un-Christian for me to resist that with...
But didn't we do that to the indigenous people? I mean, well, not we, but our ancestors or whoever's ancestors who came here. I guess not mine. I don't know your background, but couldn't you say that our society was built on that?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go that far, but I'd say what you're saying is absolutely true, no doubt about it. We held people in human slavery too.
Yeah.
But it was a long time ago when I say we, I mean my ancestors. Right, I haven't done any of that. I haven't enslaved anyone.
Oh, of course.
And I haven't stolen anyone's land.
But what I'm talking about is people fleeing from, disaster and war-torn areas, drug-prone areas, really, trying to come to and enjoy the freedoms that we have here. Why should we, I guess, build a wall more or less, or keep them out? Why should we ban them from coming to this country?
I answered your question. Just because your neighbor's in trouble doesn't give him a right to break into your home and steal your property. But nevertheless, I think to be a nation, you have a right to know who's coming in. If you're going to call yourself a nation, whatever the name of that nation might be, I prefer to call this one America, or the United States, if you will. I know that George Bush said that that's just an idea, that it's not really a place, but he was wrong about that and so many other things. But nevertheless, I think we have a right to decide who's coming into our country. That's all I'm saying. We should be able to vet the people who's coming in. I call for a secure border, a border that will allow us to know whether that person crossing the border is a terrorist or not.
All right, and would you say Obama has done a good job at that?
You might say that he's one of your poverty-stricken people just looking to find freedom and a nice place to live, but in reality, he might be a terrorist. So we have a right to know that.
Would you say that Obama's done a good job at protecting the border?
No, I don't think he's done a good job at that. Or I could probably, if I had enough hours, I might find something he's done a good job at, but I kind of doubt it.
All right, fair enough. Now I want to end our conversation more or less on a topic that means a lot to me, and that would be, I'm sure as many of the repeat audience would know, climate change. Do you accept the scientific suggestion that humans are affecting the Earth's climate?
Absolutely not.
Okay. And I guess why not? Because, it seems as though the majority of scientists are concluding that it is, in fact.
That's your opinion. You said the majority of people think a lot of things, right?
No, that's not my opinion. That's
If you decided that, if the majority of people decided that we were going back to imposing an apartheid type situation on one race or the other, would that make it right?
No, wait, hang on. But I'm talking about people who have concluded it using scientific data and the scientific theory, various mechanisms to figuring out, analyzing ice core data. I mean, I could go on for this.
Many other scientists have concluded just the opposite. To me, it's just a bunch of nonsense, and I don't believe a word of it.
So what do you say? Because you are running for the position to be the most powerful man in the world, and this will be perhaps a problem that you face. We are seeing that there is more CO2 in the atmosphere than any time in the past 600,000 years. That being said, you don't think that it could be contributed to the fact that we are putting CO2 into the atmosphere, cutting down trees at record paces, and of that nature? The coral reefs are dying because there is more carbon being stored in the oceans and more ocean acidification due to more carbon in the atmosphere. None of that suggests that humans might be doing something.
You suggest information that you purport to be true. I will admit that I'm not a scientist. I also admit I'm not a doctor, but I still oppose abortion.
So wait, if you just said one of the lines that I'm always most curious about, and because you're a politician and because you said it, I must ask you. You said that you are not a scientist, but there are people who are scientists, and the large majority of those scientists, whether they're from NASA, NOAA, the Department of Defense, the United States Navy, are all saying that climate change is one of the biggest threats we face today and that it is being caused by humans. So why do you not believe those people who are scientists?
I don't believe it because I don't accept your premise, number one. You go out and you stick your finger in the air and you say, okay, well, the majority of scientists believe this. How do you know that? There are many scientists who don't believe that. But be that as it may, I don't believe it. And you can argue with me until there's a 20-foot layer of ice over hell. I'm still not going to believe it. So what's the point in this discussion?
I'm just curious because I think it's going to be one of the biggest problems going forward for the future president. So be it that you are going to be, if
I'm the future president, it won't be a big problem.
All right. Well, I guess that's fair. In conclusion, I guess I would like to ask you if there are any last things you want to talk about, where people can find you, and just say some final words for us.
People can find me on my website, castle2016.com, castle2016.com.
All right. Any last words?
No last words.
All right. Well, Mr. Castle, this will be going live Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll make sure to send you over the link. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Have a good day. Bye-bye. All right, so we just had a conversation with presidential candidate of the Constitution Party, Darrell Castle, and you gotta wonder, do you believe in the ideas that he talked about? You have to wonder. What I wanted to talk about was some things that I felt were facts that he called opinion. Do you think that they were facts? Do you think that they were opinion? Do you think that the majority of climate scientists suggesting that climate change is in fact created by man, do you think that is my opinion, or do you think that that is rooted in fact? Do you think that economists saying that the gold standard will lead to price instability, do you consider that my opinion or a fact? I don't know. It's up for you to decide. That's the whole point of the show. It's called Opinion Nation. Let's talk about when we talked about what was it? This being a Christian nation. I thought that was interesting. I thought when we talked about the way the Supreme Court works and whatnot, I thought that was very interesting. I think we had a great conversation where we could really see the points of view of this candidate, and I hope that everybody got to analyze them well. I don't agree with much of what was said, especially the part about the Supreme Court. Well, I acknowledge the Supreme Court makes mistakes, obviously. Dred Scott, which is what he pointed out, and I don't want it to be framed that I believe everything that the Supreme Court says. No, that's not how it meant to come out, and in reviewing it, I think it came out that way. But what I was saying is, more or less, if the Supreme Court can make mistakes, couldn't the Founding Fathers have made mistakes? And if we're going to interpret this as a Christian nation, or that's what it should be, well, then we should go look at the Bible, and then we can clearly see that only 2 of the 10 Commandments are actually laws in our society. The other ones we don't really care much for, or they're slaps on the wrist, or if anything, or they might be nothing. So, again, I want you, the listener, to decide and get back to me on this. Tweet at me at RobinsBryce, RobinsBryce, or on Facebook, BRYCE, ROBINS, Bryce Robbins. Yeah, definitely. Keep up the conversation. What do you think? Is this a Christian nation? Should this be a Christian nation? Should religion have a guiding hand in our society? Is abortion as evil and wicked as he says it is? If a president deems something evil and wicked in their own moral beliefs, does that give them justification to not follow it for the betterment of the people? I mean, that was one thing. That was another thing similar to the climate change conversation when I said, well, 3% of funding goes to abortion. The rest goes towards health care for women in poverty, primarily. And it was simply just it was not worth having the conversation, as he alluded to when we were talking about climate change, because there was just such a dichotomy there. If you're not willing to accept the facts that I'm giving, then there's not much conversation to be had. But I want you, the listener, to analyze this and formulate your own opinion. You can catch Darrell Castle on Facebook. That's how I found him. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. And, you know, what I really am most curious about is still the third-party candidate. I didn't really get the answer. Why, I guess, is he running? Is it to make the point? I guess that was like one of my first questions we talked about. But again, you analyze it, you decide it. I had a great time doing this interview. I hope Mr. Castle did as well. And I will definitely be coming back to you guys next week. We are going to be joined by a member of the Socialist Party who's running for president. There's actually, if you didn't know this, there's 2 socialist parties that are primary parties that I actually found that I were able to contact. So we're going to have one week and one the other week, and see where we can go with this. I believe it's Gloria Rivera, I believe her name is. We'll be talking with her, talking about socialism, so that should be fun. But until then, I hope you enjoyed today's interview. I hope you learned something. And if you didn't know, Glenn Beck is actually voting for Darrell Castle. So, you know, he's not a no-name. He is definitely up there. He has had more traction than most. And I encourage you to get information on him if you liked what he said. If you didn't like what he said, go to the polls and vote for somebody else. But thank you, everybody, for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful Saturday. I will catch you next week, same time, same place, same day, only on Opinion Nation. All right, folks, I'm Bryce Robbins, and I'm out.
On the edge of a new frontier.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
What makes us Americans is our shared commitment to an ideal that all of us are created equal.
I, too.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.